Chairman, we're live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Sorry we had a little longer executive than normal. Our next agenda item is not an action item. It is a discussion on the woody debris burning at the solid waste transfer site. And I'll try and make this a short story, but Scott Carnes from Lakeshore called me last week before we burned, stating that he could not find a cat. And the only cat he could find was going to be about $16,000 a month lease. And I said, that's really not our concern, that's part of your contract. And he understands that. So that,
Understand that now?
I don't know.
I sent you the deal, that's. That line in there kind of covers.
I mean, as far as the lease,
What the contract says.
the 3,000, would- yeah.
Page 8, it says they will provide all
Right,
equipment, labor,
right.
and tools for operation of that site.
And I hope he does. We're gonna reinforce it. But to go on with the story, because he couldn't find a cat, he didn't want to do any burning. Because there was no way to keep it piled and keep it going hot with. And finally, he called me, I don't even know what day it is now, Thursday night or Friday, he said, I do have access to a D6. And it will be here, supposed to be there today, I think. I don't know if any of you have been up there, if it showed up or not. But they need the cat to pile the woody debris to keep the fire hot enough so that it will burn up. My question then is I called Juan and talked to Juan about, why do we burn it this time of year? Is it a DEQ rule or something? No, we can burn it any time we want. So immediately light bulbs go off in my head thinking, why don't we burn this in the fall when it's drier, not so wet, it won't put up so much smoke, and do it and both the construction waste at the same time. And I think that's what we need to discuss today, is if that's a possibility and what dates you guys are thinking about. Or
Can I go first? Really?
Absolutely.
We just kind of had that conversation out there, so.
Okay. First of all, I want to state, I'm Juan Bonilla. I'm the Donnelly Rural Fire Protection District Chief. I do have the authority over jurisdiction on burning up at the MRF site according to the DEQ regulations. So I talked to DEQ last week because I talked to them every week prior before burning so that they could give me the yes or no based on their air quality schematic or their findings. We were cleared to burn. There was only been one weekend where we weren't cleared to burn, and we ended up burning in the February 3-day weekend. So we've always burned or try to be extremely consistent, always burning the January 3-day weekend. There are rules. In the beginning, all we burned was the woody debris pile, the green debris. That was all we burned because that was the only thing that we could burn as a prescribed burn. In a prescribed burn, the fire district authority person can say, let's burn a prescribed burn. We light it. We sure it's safe, meets the quality protections, and we're not going to disrupt the atmospheric level with the smoke. So because it's large fire, large BTUs, lots of production of carbon emissions through the smoke. So we've done that for a while. Now, just recently, over the last few years, provisions have come about to along when they revised the demolition burning of houses for training. They added that we could burn piles of construction debris. So that's when I came and said, hey, there's this new provision. Should we attempt it at the current transfer site? And it was decided, yeah, let's burn it if they'll let us burn it. So we've been doing that. But it's not a prescribed burn. It's what we have to, and I'll say this very clearly. When I have to call it a training exercise. Now, the provisions that are allowed for a training exercise is once we light it, we have to stay on scene until it's out, not even smoldering, out. So I can ill afford as a district, because we're already shorthanded, to have a crew of engines and personnel. So what we came up with is a provision that said, if we light it on a Saturday afternoon on a 3-day weekend, before public is allowed back into the MRF site on Tuesday, the construction debris pile would be out with the use of equipment. Then I would call DEQ on Tuesday and say the construction debris pile is out and not smoldering, and they will check it off and say, you're good to go. So that's the two differentiations in both, because I call one a prescribed burn and call the other an exercise burn to save the tens of thousands of dollars in chipping. One thing is I will say with that is the reason we try to burn in January is because the atmospheric pressures allow for less smoke in the valley floor. If we burn any other time than January or February, there is a good chance that the majority of the smoke column will be in the majority of the valley floor from Donley up north, because that's how the prominent winds go. Right now, when you look at the atmospheric pressure and you even look at the column when it burns, you notice that the column, before it spreads and starts to tee, is at several hundred feet above ground level. Now at night, that gets pushed down to 100 feet and below, sometimes even ground level. But because of the rising temperature and because of the fluctuation from cold to a little warmer, again, that atmospheric pressure puts the smoke back up. You'll see this column be at a higher level in the atmosphere, meaning less smoke. Now, we're dealing with smoke now. I field anywhere from 30 to 60 calls the entire time we burn and throughout the woody debris pile, because the woody debris pile takes several days, if not weeks, to continue to burn out completely. So I don't have a stake in the game other than the district's willing to try and save tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money to put somewhere else other than chipping. Now, I know there's opportunities. I don't know all the ins and outs of possibly using chipping to recur costs, but being the historian I am, because I've been here the longest than anybody, for some reason, it's crazy for me to say that. I used to say I was the youngest guy, now I'm the oldest guy. Every time we look into that model, the price of what we would chip is never outweighs the overall cost of the chipping, and it ends up always costing the county taxpayer dollars because it never works out for whoever chipped it. And we have always covered those extra costs. I was really surprised that they had gotten as high as they were before we burned. I wish I'd have known earlier, because we would have been burning that woody debris sooner to save that money. And that way it could go in the budget somewhere else. That's the only reason we do it. I don't have a stake in the game. I don't have, it's something we could do as a service. The guys like, monitoring it, and if they have to go up there, they don't care. Even when we do the woody debris pickup, they will go up and make sure everybody's doing okay and help the MRF side out. But because it keeps little fires out from the community. If we're going to change the thing, we can do that. I will tell you that we can't burn on the February weekend because I don't have the personnel that I need on staff, because they already have scheduled their vacation time, because they had everything scheduled for this 3 weekends, the 2 people. One gen person I have one that generally does the majority of it. He happens to live on site. He's 6th generation on that ranch, so he knows everything about it, knows how to do the burning, knows when to burn. He knows why we burn, and he's just down the road. So anytime he's home and we get a call, he'll run up, check, make sure there's no issue, run back down to his house. I don't have to send anybody from the station and take him out of service. So he pretty much manages it the whole time. His name's Josh Davis. He's been on the department for almost 20 years, so he has a lot of fire background.
So
that's what we do.
You're saying, though, if we decided we wanted to burn this, I'm just going to put a date out, let's say the 15th of November, middle of November sometime, when the wood is drier, there's no snow on it yet. Would it burn up hotter and faster?
Because of the rate of BTUs, I would Southern Idaho Timber might say we're taking a chance specifically to the climate change that we have and the types of temperatures we're seeing in our 100-hour fuels And to have that many BTUs of thermal heat going everywhere, with not enough significant moisture on the ground in November, we have the potential of burning up DFD development and the Davis Ranch with potential spot fires. So another reason we picked that January date is there's generally enough snow. Now, back in the day, we could have burned in December, probably, but there's sometimes like this year where it's a good thing we wait till January because there's enough snow to burn that fire. It does take us a little longer to start the fire, but once it gets going, it goes. The construction debris in that 3-day window goes very quickly, especially when you just keep piling those edges up. I mean, we haven't had any issues with lingering or things that just aren't, I mean, it burns very quick even in January. So, but I didn't mean for any discontents and conversation calls or anything. It's, I called you direct because I'm like, hey, do you want me to burn or not burn? And you just tell me, and I have to tell my crew not to burn because they were all set to burn. And he wasn't on shift those few days, so I had to call him because, you know, he has a second job.
So we didn't burn?
We did burn the woody debris.
What's the plan for the construction?
I have no plan at this point.
We got to get it burned before next summer when the new stuff starts coming in. So
I don't know how we're going to do that unless my guy decides not to go on vacation. My couple guys decide not to go on vacation in February.
So, Juan, first of all, nobody's blaming you or Donnelly for fire.
I know.
For the smoke that's going on. We understand we've got a large pile of stuff that we got to get rid of. Appreciate your concerns about saving the taxpayer money. But, you know, I think what it comes down to is it's just we're being overwhelmed by the volume. And then, you know, again, not your problem. We're being overwhelmed by the volume and we need to find an alternative solution. It sounds like now we could be stuck with, you know, a real problem if we don't get rid of that construction debris. Because we're just running out of room.
So I don't like to ever say no. So I'm still trying to work out how we could possibly burn in that 3-day February weekend. I'm still trying to figure that out because I don't want to spend money. I'm really adamant about not having to spend that money when we can just burn it for next to nothing other than whatever the cost is for the equipment. Because we don't charge anything. And I don't want to, I'd rather we spend that money on something that I know is much more important than chipping. And I know that eventually it's going to be overwhelmed with, you know, the debris that's going out there. But one thing I will say is a big portion of that debris is our free dumping for a whole summer. So, I mean, changing one thing and not being able to get rid of the at a efficient, proficient thing that and funding mechanism that's, you know, we don't want it to get elaborate, not be fiscally responsible. Changing the woody debris program for pickups to spring and fall and then throughout the summer, if we have to reduce that, then we run the risk of more fire permits. We run the risk of people burning in their homes because there's an availability.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are intertwined in that woody
Same
debris
volume of
pile.
material, and it's just you guys are monitoring.
We're just
it
dealing
versus
with
the
it on a
homeowner.
boom, 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 rather than at one-time deal at the deal. So that's, I mean, that has to be part of the consideration of any plan that you may have is affecting the woody debris pile affects a lot of other things that we got going on. Like,
Well, and I think honestly, we were very successful at collecting that woody debris in one spot. And that was the goal, so that people weren't burning on the weekends in July and August when they came up here on their lot. That's the issues that we were dealing with in the past. And I think, you know, whether we do that after first snow in the fall, I don't know enough about the air quality and all those rules and regs to say if that's a good time or not to do that. But I think we need to burn it sooner so it burns up hotter and faster. That's what I'm
so
trying
we
to
could
get
look
to.
at that for next fall. And all that takes is me a call to DEQ in like October and say, hey, we're thinking about changing from January to December. What is the outlook like, and when is the historical value show that would be a good time, and then we can work that out. I'm not going to say no, we can't. I'm just saying we picked those months for specific reasons, and that's what we did. And I will tell you, with the woody debris pickups and stuff, We've gone down about 47% countywide for burn permits. So that means more people are taking their material rather than burning it at their homes. So, I mean, it's a big deal. And we do it really for pennies on the dollar, that woody debris pickup, when you really think about the tonnage that we take. But then we got to deal with the tonnage that we create. And every year, my guy who burns goes like, you need to come look at the pile. It's even bigger than it was last year. And we're like, man, we're going to see this one from space. Because they're big. I mean, I'm not going to exaggerate it. They're big piles, and they've gotten bigger since this program has started. And now with all the housing and building going on, it's even, all the construction guys are even compounding with more tonnage. So there is a lot. But like I said, the Donley Fire Department's willing to do whatever you want. I'll do any studies with the DEQ so we can change dates. I'm still working on the February date. I prefer to burn in the February date because I don't want us to be caught with the bill later because we have to deal with such a huge pile already.
Right.
So one, you do it on the 3-day weekends because you have 3 days in order to control the burn. What if we close the site on one of the other weekends? If you absolutely can't do it on that 3-day weekend?
Good question.
And just do it, notice it, let everybody know it's going to be closed on this date.
That would be perfect
Monday.
plan B. And I think if I can't get it to work those 3-day weekend, I'll let you know, and then we can determine with, I'm assuming you're now in charge for that from the county, okay, which we didn't know that. I'm assuming you didn't know that we always burn on this weekend
Well,
either.
I was under the assumption that it was in February.
Oh, okay. So it's just some communication got lost between transfer command, which happens. That happened when Glenna and Gabe took over. Not a big deal.
Question for you, one, do you have to close the whole site, or can we just close the road up to the deck? I mean, if people can still bring their
No, we'll have to
household
close the whole site for a day. So
Okay.
if one Monday down, one of the weekends that works for my guys to burn, and either if it's be between now and the February date or after the February date, before we start getting the atmospheric change in March, we could do that.
And
I'm willing to do whatever.
I'm wondering if we don't work with Mackenzie to get out the word, hey, we're going to be burning this day. If you do have health issues, this is the day that's available to us or whatever, or a weekend available to us.
I guess
And try and notice
I think she's trying to say is let us know enough time that we can get it shut down and get the PR'd out so everybody knows that Monday is going to be closed.
Gotcha.
Just give us
And that
a couple of
weekend is
weeks
going to
or
be
something.
smoky, I mean, if
Yeah.
people do have health issues, they may have to make a different choice. If that's the way that we're going to eliminate this, then we need to put the word out. We got a ton of emails. It's like an email chain's going out. So we need to respond to that. But there's obviously good reason for that. So hopefully the newspaper is going to pick up on this and we can do some kind of a joint article.
Yep, and as soon as I work it out with my guys, work it out with Scott, and then if we have to close a day or it works that 3 day, we'll let everybody I'll make sure that my guys, and I'm sure Scott will let Mackenzie know that, hey, we need to put a PR now, public information announcement so that,
Scott, can
Everybody knows.
Lakeshore still work on that Monday hauling residential trash?
Well, they have keys to the gate. I mean, if we lock. the
as
road,
long as the gate's locked and then they can get in and out.
They can get
that's
in now,
fine.
so that
It's
will
just
continue.
See, in the paper, they don't close Christmas or anything else. They're open all holidays, so. And if they show up earlier before we open, they can get in and dump and back out again.
Yeah, because with those long hauls, all that stuff needs to continue on.
It's
Especially-
just the public going up and seeing
Right.
a fire and then calling the the district health person who calls DEQ, who calls me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, here we
Yeah.
go. Which we had to deal with that a few years because someone got left out of the loop from DEQ. They called me upset, and I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Call DEQ. So, but like I said, we're willing to do whatever. And I wasn't saying that we were taking I'm used to the calls because of the smoke. Some of the people I joke with and say, hey, didn't you realize when you moved here, we have a 5th season that's periodically called the smoke season. So just deal with it for a few days. We're saving some taxpayer money.
And I think that's important for everybody to know that the last time we did chip it was about $71,000 or $72,000.
And I'm sure it's higher now because we
And
haven't had
with
the
that pile
burn, so I'd
now-
hate to see what that number is.
Yeah, with that pile now, it's probably 120 or 150,000. I do know that Lakeshore is looking into trying to figure out a way where they can set up a pelletizer or a chipper or something, and they can sell the product. And I encourage that. Anybody could come in and do that. If you think you can pelletize all that pile and be done with it and be out of the way within a certain amount of time, great. I think that's just business opportunity for anybody. But right now, we got to burn it because we can't afford to chip it.
And like I said, as long as I'm chief, I'm gonna say let's burn it if we can.
Okay, so you guys will stay in communication and
Yep.
figure out on the
Now that we
CDL.
know that Scott's the main person, I'll make sure my guy Josh gets a hold of you. And then we'll work out those dates as best as we can. He's on shift in a couple days, so I'll have him talk to you directly. And then we'll just disseminate that information as necessary.
Okay.
My goal is to have it burnt by that 3-day weekend in February sometime.
Scott, anything else you need?
I didn't mean to take the whole time.
No, that's fine.
I tend to do that here.
So, this is why we burn when we do and stuff, and just, like I say, I just kind of felt like I was left out of the loop, you know.
Sorry for that.
You know,
And we didn't- yeah, and I'm
talking
too,
to
Scott.
Nikki, and Nikki's, telling me, and I'm going, they're supposed to be talking to me, not you, Nikki,
Well, they are cousins, and that's all we usually talk to is Nikki, so she's my cousin too, so.
Yeah.
We're all related up there.
We're all in the same subspecies
That's
anyway.
right.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else on this?
I think we're good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming in, yep.
Okay, our next agenda item is an action item. This is the Southwest Idaho RC&D Development Council sponsorship information, and I think this was a $500 a year sponsor. Doug, we've done this in the past, haven't we? So this is kind of more of a renewal.
And then to select the RC&D representative.
Oh, and that's right. And Sherry, you wanted to do that.
No, it's Mary Rosen.
Or Mary, that's right. Okay, is everybody good with this? We need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Southwest Idaho Conservation and Development Council sponsorship for 2022.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we've got
$500.
about 2 minutes for our next agenda item. So yeah, if you need a break.
I know you're going to do a snow dance, right?
Can you get that to Mary to get her to fill out all her details? So I need to sign any of that. That's, everything else is good, right? Dave, is this for the public hearing at one, this paper you gave us?
It is, yeah, that was from Planning and Zoning,
Oh, this is from planning and zoning?
it was.
this for the meeting this afternoon?
Yeah, it's for the hearing at 1. That was from planning and zoning. Just some ideas. Things we want to make sure we get included in the conditions of approval if we go that direction.
Oh, got it. Hey Doug, do you want me to send this, if I can figure out how to get to those people? Or is that something you want to send? That's on Juan's program.
Yeah, I don't have the contact information.
I probably haven't. I'll send it. I probably should get a county envelope,
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind
emailing it
scanning
to
it
you.
in and email it to me, so we just have a document.
I'll just email it to them too. That's perfect.
I understand.
Morning, June.
Because there's a lot of trees down.
Okay, we're gonna go on down our agenda. Next one is an action item. This is to approve the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec grant app for Wellington warming hut. And roof replacement, chimney repair. Larry, come on up. Where are we gonna get the 4,500? Have we talked about that?
No,
Okay.
no, we haven't talked about it. So that grant, the cost of that roof went from $37,000 to almost $50,000, and I don't have any more match. I've used up everything I can possibly use. And so Mary put that together, and I'm bringing it to you guys, hoping for some help.
So the monies that actually were made on that project you're using in other areas?
I'm
The
sorry,
Welling-
I
The
didn't.
Wellington this year, you told us you made like $10,000 on the
Yes.
campground. So that money is being utilized elsewhere.
I would love to put that in it. We did not put that into our budget this year because we don't, we did our budget way before that. But yeah, there's $10,000 basically that I think we only put 3 into Wellington, so there should be 7,000 left.
So Doug, how do we spend money on Wellington from Wellington? I mean,
We waited
isn't
until
that just a
after-
GL or is it just,
Yeah,
is it just a GL transfer? Or do we have to wait until after the start of the budget year?
So you could expend it, you could over expend that expense line for Wellington expenses if you were so inclined to do that.
I think that's what we do. I mean, that's the simplest thing. I mean, that Wellington income then is spent on improving
Right,
the Wellington
right.
Park.
and I love that idea of having the park pay for itself. Yeah. Yeah.
I think if we can continue to use those funds into the future, to just make gradual improvements to that site,
Oh, yeah.
that makes sense.
Our next big one is I've been getting phone calls for people who want to do winter camping now. And they understand that the price would be a lot more money because you got to clear the snow and stuff. But I think that's going to be a big growth item. But thank you. If we can overexpend it, I can do it that way.
The only thing is, commissioners, if he overexpends that entire budget, you'll just have to move money from the general fund reserve to cover the costs.
Well, he's only asked for 4,500, so we shouldn't. How does that work when you've got 7,500 in income?
Well, you could argue that the money that comes in for that, assists with Larry's salaries, the assistant salaries, but if you're wanting to have a clear representation of the money collected with the money spent, we would have to increase the budgeted amount for Wellington expenses. Currently, we only have it at 3,000, so we would increase that, and then we would just have to make sure that we are in fact collecting, the amount that's budgeted for the expenses, or it's going to be tax dollars that's being expended on these costs.
Because before we start another budget year, we're gonna have another summer of income.
Correct.
Yeah, it's kind of like our snowmobile funds where we're always working a year behind. So it makes it a little more complicated.
Well, the other way to look at this too is you've got, 45,500 in grants, which I think is great to get that much money in grants to fix it in an in-kind
Oh,
cost.
I agree 100%. We're using the grants for everything
Yeah.
possible.
We could be paying quite a bit more if we had to.
Oh my gosh. And we actually added another 10% onto the grant for inflation, just in case, and that may not happen. You know, the contractor may be able to pull it in, then we won't have to take as much of it.
The Commissioners, just for the money that was collected for fiscal year 2021 in Wellington camping fees was $9,318. That was receipted into the general fund, but specifically the revenue line for Wellington camping fees. It does go into the general.
So what kind of a motion do you need from us? Something that approves the, going over that line item? I'm not quite sure what kind of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I think you would just approve the grant application as well as the letter of commitment that has
And then
been
we'll figure that out later.
presented.
So Mary just sent us an email that says that the total match would be $5,500 for the grant. There's $1,000 in the rec budget now, and then $4,500 that we need to figure out.
So he still has the 1,000 in his budget. So instead of
Well,
4,500 coming from PIL, we just allow the over expenditure.
Right.
So even though it's total 5,500, he's already accounted for 1,000 of that. Correct. That's what we're getting from Mary.
Yeah, and I understand. Keep in mind, I'm pulling another $660 out of that Wellington thing for that tent and stove we got for the dog sled races too, so. Which I hadn't planned on, but it'll fit.
Okay.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion then to approve this.
I move that we approve the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation grant application for the Wellington warming hut replacement and chimney repair project, and approve the letter of commitments for the Valley County contribution of $4,500.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Yeah, as you say, the actual commitment is $5,500.
$5,500,
Yeah, so I think we should amend that to, instead
Okay.
of,
I amend to state the Valley County contribution of $5,500, of which $1,000 has already been allocated by Parks and Recreation.
second.
Okay, everybody understand the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job on this, Larry. Thank you.
Grants?
Okay, we have about 5 more minutes, and we are going to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene as the Board of Equalization. So if you guys want to come on up and get set at the table, we'll get started after 11:30.
I apologize in advance. I had extensive dental stuff on yesterday, so you need to bear with me on this.
Can you say extensive dental 3 times in a row?
Oh, sorry, Anthony. That's miserable.
Extensive dental.
Well, you're looking better.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be up here.
Yep, come on up.
Okay, I've never been here before and I don't know the process, sorry.
Very informal.
You look pretty darn formal to me. I thought I was in trouble for a minute.
No, you're never in trouble. Nope,
I'm
don't worry
usually
about that.
in trouble.
This is a copy of yours and. Or,
Yeah, some stuff for us. Good, Jennifer. I know I did it last week, so I don't know where it is.
we changed, some of it was changed.
So this is updated to
Yes,
today.
sir.
Okay.
Come on. Yep.
Thank you.
You got about 4 minutes, so if you need a break, this would be a good time to take it.
I had to write it out really fast.
Oh, yeah, I gotta swear everybody in, don't I?
Their planning and zoning is just
You want me to fill this out when they're done? This is the original and give to you.
That would be great.
I'm gonna sit back here.
I don't know if either of you are interested or not. The Pale Lakes Recreational Water and Sewer District is looking for a commissioner to serve on their capital improvements workshop. And they're doing it at the same time as I have a campus planning meeting, so I can't do that. March 2nd, which is a Wednesday, 9:30 to 12 at their office on Jacob Street.
Sorry, March what?
It's March 2nd, Wednesday. Forward you a meeting invite or
How was your drive up, George?
I'm sorry?
How was your drive?
I can't do it on that day. I'll be my other
Glad you
job.
didn't go to McCall.
Mike can do it if
My client
you
called me
can't.
5 days ago before
Let
they
me
went
go
to
ahead
Mexico
and
and said
send
I
this
needed to
invite
be
to
on
you.
call at 10:30. So your call to me was wonderful. Saved me a drive to McCall.
George, you work for Remax and Eagle?
No, no, ma'am. I'm licensed in Canyon and Ada County, but I've sold a lot of property in McCall. I've been in the business 42 years, so I've sold a lot of property up here over the years, mostly land.
So we've really seen selling this year. 21 was land. We've seen so much land sold in 21 up here.
Yeah.
It just, my monthly rate of changes are running 5 to 6% on land last year.
Crazy. I'm an agent also with Remax up here, so that's what I thought if you were with Remax down there. I saw that somewhere, but. I used to sell in Middleton for the most part, before it got super crazy down there.
You talk about a change.
I was an
You talk
agent.
about a change.
I know, I helped start that. I get blamed for it all the time.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started at this time. I'm going to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene as the Board of Equalization. At this time, I please ask all three of you to rise, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please note that they have been sworn in. So at this time, I will turn it over to, I don't know, Jen or Anthony, who's leading the show here? George goes first. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, lucky me.
Okay, welcome, George.
Thank you, sir.
This is a very relaxed hearing. We're not here to yell or scream or throw stuff. Just take your time
I don't
and
know what the process is here, so I guess you need to ask me questions, or I don't know.
basically you kind of give us your reasoning why you think there's a different value than what the appraisers came up with. Is that,
Certainly. First of all, I've been working with these clients for several years.
Sir, I apologize. Just for the record, can I get your first and last name?
George Talibus. I'm a licensed associate broker with Remax Executives in Canyon County and Ada
And you're
County.
representing the appellants, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
and it's TALL.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Anyway, I've been working with these clients since 2017. I showed them a property on Barker Loop a year before they bought this property on Haight. And the property that I showed them there was over $1 million. And the client said he wanted to make an offer on that, and I talked him out of it because most of the properties in that area were about 500 to 700,000. This was the only property that was over $1 million. And he finally listened to me and didn't do it. A year later, that property still hadn't sold, and it was taken off the market. I said it was overpriced for the area, and that's one of the things that you have to pay attention to when you're selling property. When I sold them this property on Haight, they had plans of remodeling a 3,500 square foot house. And the wife, Maria, came into Boise 7 times over a year and a half, meeting with contractors, remodelers, etc. Then I get a call that they're gonna tear the house down and build a 6,000 square foot house. And I said, be very careful, because this area, if you go too high in value, is not commensurate with the values in that area. A 6,000 square foot house is a lot of house. And so I said, be careful and don't go over more than about 1.7 to $2 million, please. Over the next year and a half, that price came up about 500,000 every 3 or 4 months. And now we're at 6.7 million. I'm sorry that cost does not dictate value, and it never has. And I think they've way overbuilt for the area. I mean, it's amazing what this property is for the area. Everything around it is between 500,000 to 800,000. There's nothing in that price range. So I think they're gonna have a real hard time if they ever sell this property. I know so much about the property. I sold them the property. I've sold them 80 acres over the last 4 years, including that property. If they hired me, and this is the honest truth, if they hired me today to sell that property, I would not list it for anything over $5 million. I would have to list it under 5 million because it's just not in an area commensurate with those values. And I know a lot about the market that's happening right now. I know a lot, what a lot of people don't know that's happening in our market that started in March of last year. And property values have come down a lot. The #1 builder in Idaho is Corey Barton. And just from July to December of this year, he's reduced his prices on his houses by $20,000 per house. We have a lot of developers in Canyon and Ada County that have that bought property, development property in the last 6 months, and they are getting out. They're just losing their earnest money, and they're walking away from these developments. It was announced on December 1st. 45,500 people are in foreclosure right now, and that number is expected to double in the next 60 days. This market has changed a lot in the last 6 months, and it's going to change again. And I just don't believe that this cost that they put in this house is reasonable. I don't see it happening. I have a program that you're probably aware of, an RP program with MLS, and every time I've done a value using that program, I've been really close to what a property sells for. And I use a lot of comps, the best comps that I could find, and I go into the program and I put the information about the subject property and the comps, and the program calculates a value. I sent this to an appraiser in Canyon County that looked at it and agreed that this was really close to value, and she said the highest I would put on it would be 4.8 to 4.9, knowing what I told her about the property and what we know about the property.
So the value now from the appraiser was 6. There we go.
7.
6.7.
On the improvement, yes.
That is, I'm sorry, but I
And
just,
you think the market value should be 4.6?
I think it should be under 5 million, is what I'm saying. Just what I know about the market and what has happened in the last 6 months and what's going to happen.
Okay, is there any more questions for George? We'll probably kind of come back and forth. We're going to let these guys explain their side of it, and then we'll kind of come back and forth and see where it goes.
Of course.
Okay, so Jennifer, Anthony, I don't know who's leading the discussion.
I'm going to start just with our letter summarizing what we're presenting today. So the subject, this appeal is AF Class 1, property owner Escosa Maria Pilar Revocable Trust, parcel number RP 17 North 02 East 125376. And the subject property is located at 35 Haight Lane in McCall. The property consists of 27.6768 acres, which include Payette River frontage and mountain views. And the land is currently graded as a good. This is a newly constructed single-family residence, which includes 6,212 square feet of livable space containing 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. The improvement total also includes a 1,620 square feet of attached garage. The dwelling and garage are graded a V1 in good condition. The residence and garage were occupied as of July 2021 and was put on the occupancy roll for 6 months. Below are the values for 2021. After review of 2020 sales, we arrived at a value of $6,793,850, which does not include the land value. Reviewing the sales provided by the appellant, we arrived at a value of $10,864,483 after adjustments, not including land value. And working up the replacement cost new using Marshall Swift valuation, we arrived at the cost value of $6,603,770, not including the land value. It is in our opinion that the assessed value is correct. And we are respectfully requesting that the board sustain the 2021 occupancy roll assessed value of $3,362,908.
So I guess my question, maybe, I'm not sure who to ask it to, but it seems like, George has kind of come up with a good reason in the fact that since the first of the year, these sales are kind of going back down. And I think it's hard for people to understand that we are looking at last year's values. So we can't really take that into consideration yet. Does that make sense?
Can I add something about that?
Sure.
Okay. Market started to change last year. I use Meridian because it's been the fastest growing city in Idaho most of the time, okay? In February of last year, I do YouTube videos about it, and you can look it up, because I have a lot of information that I put on there. And in February of last year, there were 75 homes for sale in Meridian. The average price, the average days on the market was 7 days on the market. I did a video in July. And in July, there was 375 homes in Meridian. The 20% of them had been reduced in price, and the average days on the market was now 34. The other thing that people don't look at all, every year, at the end of the year, I look at how many properties were withdrawn or canceled from the MLS in Ada and Canyon County every year. In 2019, there was only 275 homes or listings that were withdrawn or canceled. In 2020, there was only 175. By the middle of December of this last year, in Canyon County alone, not including Ada County, 710 listings had been canceled or withdrawn. That's a sign of what the market did in the last year.
Our date of appraisal is January 1st, 2021, so I have to use data for January 1st, 2020, January 1st, 2021. So what's happening currently and what happened through 2021, when we get ready to do assessments for this year, we'll take into account those sales for last year and any downward market trends we may see. So I'm having to base what our value is as of January 1st, 21. So
And I would also ask, George, so you're using the market as a whole. And as agents, we
I'm
know.
using two
Okay, let me
things.
complete my thought, please.
Yes, two things, yes. The changing in the market that started happening in March of this last year all around the state, not just in Canyon and Ada County, but in Valley County. I have seen over the 42 years that I've been in business, when the market really changes in Canyon and Ada County, it takes a little while to change up here, but when it changes here, this area really gets hurt because it doesn't have the economic strength of Canyon and Ada County. And that's what I'm talking about. The other thing I'm talking about too is how they've overbuilt for this area. Cost does not equal value.
Okay, so let me finish my thought. I've been an agent for 20 years also, and most of it in the Treasure Valley, so I understand your premise. When you are lumping, however, all of the numbers for every price point in that is a different conversation than the upper end market. The upper end market is not nearly as impacted by market shifts and changes as the market where our workforce is trying to.
I would argue with that in our area of what I do most of my marketing in Canyon and Ada County. And I would argue that because we don't have the number of people coming into our area that we had before. The average income in Idaho is $27 an hour for the state. And every story bargain and every contractor will tell you that they're now counting on the local buyer instead of so many out-of-state buyers now, and that's hurting every price range, every price range. There was a listing that one of my agents took in Boise for $1.2 million in June. In August, the sellers sold it for $690,000. So it's affected every price range, especially the upper price ranges, because we don't have as many people coming in now because of the coronavirus, the foreclosure things, everything lumped together. We're not seeing the number of people coming in like we did before.
I have family that are also agents down there. They're not having that same experience. So, I
The
mean, they're
MLS numbers
putting,
don't lie. Look at the MLS
I
numbers.
understand that. I do. So, yeah, also, sales data doesn't lie either, and the sales data is still, I mean, some of the stuff selling within a week. So I'm not saying right or wrong at this moment in time. I'm just
Selling
saying.
within a week?
Yes. So we've got a lot of sales still within that. So, and as an agent up here, I can tell you that, and it's still moving quickly up here. I'm not at this price point, but we still have a lot of activity on the
Do
marketplace.
you believe that somebody can overbuild for an area?
I do, but then again, they
Do
are
you
the
believe-
ones that
do you believe
actually,
that cost equals value?
I'm a home builder also, George, and have
Do you
been for
believe that
40 years.
cost
Okay.
equals value?
So, do I believe that cost equals value in new construction? Yes. I mean, they just paid for this.
I think the issue in my mind is value is in the eyes of the buyer.
Sure.
Really doesn't matter what it costs. If you like it, you're gonna buy it. That's just the way it's been working up here for years and years. Jennifer, is this a class 4 home? I'm trying to find that.
It's a,
Grade 4?
it is a class 9. It's,
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
it's the high end of our grading scale. Marshall Swift and other cost services, they have tiers, and, you know, you got poor up to luxury or class 9 or.
So I'm number one then, I guess.
So Haight is out just around the same area of Blackhawk on the lake, the very upper end, high end,
Which is closer to
community.
McCall from where this property
Oh,
is.
here it is.
by quarter mile, half mile. You know, it's just not that far away from that. You know, you're right at the other end of Whitetails, on the other end of West Valley. So, I mean, up here, a half mile is really close to your subject property.
Yeah, and it used to be where, you know, these high-end homes, I've been doing this 20 years also, and I might get maybe 2-3 sales of higher-end homes a year. On my spreadsheet, I've got a list of my higher-end homes, and for last year, we had almost 15 high-end home sales. Our highest was 7.1 million. We had 4.5. We had several 4.5 million sales. So high-end homes are starting to sell. I think when people look at the supply and demand and the time it takes, I want to build my dream home. Well, you're 3 years, 4 years out unless you're willing to pay contractors and workers bonuses. So people are starting to look at other high-end homes, and they're making offers and they aren't buying them. I had quite a few sales. And the sales that the appellant provided, you know, they were different grades, excellent, very good. There was a 1V, which is one grade below ours, the subject, and then another excellent. So when I had to break those down and make adjustments to those comps to bring it in line with the subject, we ended up with $11.65 a square foot. I pulled 4 comps that were one grade less than our subject. I didn't have any sales that were our subject. And I came up with $729 a square foot after adjustments. And that would be depreciation, the grade factor, and then a location adjustment. And then our cost approach,
Excuse me, Anthony, how much is 700? What did you say?
$729.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And then, so on our cost approach, and I just want to, you know, the state statute, Title 63, Chapter 3, subsection 5, appraisal also includes collection, verification, and analysis of market value sales, applicable income and expense data, and building cost information. And the application of all this information is used to predict market value. And then in our IAAO training on our property assessment valuation, page 127, I'm gonna just kind of pull the excerpt out. The cost approach usually works best for newer improvements because construction costs are easier to estimate and there's less depreciation. This approach is especially useful for appraisal of properties for which sales and income data are scarce. Such data are often difficult to obtain for special purpose and industrial properties. We broke it down using the Marshall Swift cost manual. And summarize, it showed us that we were at a price of $1,063 per square foot.
And that includes the pavers, canopies, decks, garage.
So your 729 is just built product, vertical structure, without any of the,
Right, yeah, that's through some pretty extensive adjusting.
Your cost approach is always going to be higher than your sales approach, obviously, especially with the cost of materials the last year or two.
Well, in a supply-demand market like we have up here where there's very little inventory, we're still seeing, through the analysis side, we're still seeing a lot of sales coming in. So we're not seeing the downturn that you're seeing in Meridian and whatnot. I do think it may be coming. I have seen home sales slow down, but prices haven't.
And that's what I said
Softened.
earlier. When we see our market change in our area, it delays here a little bit, but it happens a little bit harder here. I'm just telling you what I've seen, and I'm being honest of the numbers that I've seen.
I can't believe what I've seen, so. And I don't know what that looks like moving forward. We still have supply chain issues. We still have issues with getting new building products. So I mean, it's just,
We have people in our area that are being told to wait 6 to 7 months just to get furniture and appliances delivered.
And
we've had garage doors be 4 and 5 months out just for a garage door. So I mean, supply chain issues are not, and we're not done yet with that, unfortunately.
as far as investment speculation buying, we have seen a tremendous amount this past year in just raw land purchases. There's one just north of the subject that was purchased. I can't remember how many acres. It might have been 80 or 60 acres on West Mountain Road that sold for over $2 million just the bare lot. And yeah, it's.
Well, I was raised on a farm in the 70s. One thing my dad said is they're not making any more land. And there's a lot
Under
of
it all
people
is
in
the
Valley
land.
County, and they'll pay a lot of money for land.
So we did perform both the cost approach and the sales comparison approach to see how close we were. And we were right in line with what we have as assessed value.
I think there was a typo in the letter that we received because the builder on this put that cost per square foot in 2020 was $100 a square foot.
Yeah, I
I haven't
saw
seen
that too.
$100 a square foot.
On top,
I haven't seen $100 square foot building costs, and we couldn't do that 15 years
you didn't
ago
see
when
that
we
in
were in the
Canyon County.
valley.
You didn't see that in Canyon County.
No, we built in Canyon County for years. I couldn't have touched $100 a square foot 18 years ago. I think that was a typo.
And we graded it a V1. I did ask the owner if we could get in for a visual inspection, because from the exterior, all the components I've seen in high-end homes, this house has them. Very, very nice components. I don't know if they went less on the interior or not. He did say come April that he'll be up here and he will walk us through and do an interior inspection. And then also asked for the total invoice cost, what they had put into it. And he did not provide that. I do feel they probably put quite a bit more in our assessed value because there is some super adequacy here. I do think it costs more than what we assessed it for, but.
I won't argue that at all. I've been in that home several times, and I've been in a lot of upper-end homes, and it's spectacular inside. I won't argue that at all. It's spectacular. He owns the second largest lumber mill in the nation, and they shipped a lot of that lumber up here to put in that house. It is spectacular. I won't argue that. I still argue that cost is way above what I think I could sell that home for today.
Hey, any more questions for George or Anthony or Jennifer? Well, I'll go first. I feel like, the comparison between your assessment and the cost, the 6.6 versus 6.79 is pretty darn close. Either way you look at it, it's going to be at least probably what you've done. I understand the 6.9 is from the pavers and all the extraneous stuff on the outside of it. That's where you end up with the total value. So I feel like we've done a pretty good job.
Out theirs is 4.6. They're claiming 4.6.
No, that's what they're asking for.
I was confused by your statement.
I've said and testified earlier that I think the value for resale purposes, I'm not talking about anything else. If I had to list that home today, I would not list it above $5 million. I just know that.
I understand that, but I think viewing the cost approach benefit, that's what sets your
That
value.
house is spectacular. I'm not going to argue that.
And
And also, I mean, a listing is based upon the need to sell. I mean, you can put a listing out there, whatever you want. And eventually you'll find a buyer that's willing to pay that price. Especially in the location that this is. That view from that house is absolutely astonishing. It's beautiful.
And when they told me they were tearing down a 3,500 square foot home, I said, what?
okay,
I mean, I understand your concerns. We can't look forward at a market approach. You've got to look back. It's based on 2020 and escalating prices and values at that moment in time. Costs have continued to rise. I mean, the supply chain issues, lumber costs everything to do with the build is continuing to rise higher. So, yeah, I just feel like our team has done their analysis and that's where it should stand.
hey, any more questions or comments? We got about 6 more minutes.
No, I was just gonna say the same thing, is I think that the two analysis that you guys provided is right in line with what we've been seeing. It falls right in line with what you guys have been telling us for the past year and a half.
So then I would entertain a motion to deny or approve.
I'll make the motion that we deny the appeal on parcel number RP 17N02E125376.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. George, thank you for coming in. If you don't like what we did, you can appeal this to the State Tax Commission.
I'm not the owner. I'm just the guy in charge here.
You're just the guy that's here, huh?
Yeah, the guy in here. Thank you for your time.
We do see the market starting to decline. We do follow it down too. I hope we don't see too hard of a crash though, based on what you were saying, so
This is the original.
Oh, I just signed that one. No problem.
And that one goes to Mr. Miller,
Guys want these back?
please.
yeah, she needs one of them for sure.
Thank you.
What the heck's the date?
18th.
We just heard today we're gonna have more supply chain issues because China shut everything down again.
Oh, no.
We have Omicron going on now, so we're not gonna be able to get product again.
So this goes to Doug?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Then we'll send them a letter indicating the decision and providing them with the steps
Stories out of
if they do in fact want to appeal to the state.
Whoop, you got that one?
Usually I watch the bigger market, Dallas,
That's the rest of the
go
original.
Seattle, and there's
Now that I'm done tearing your spot up
Okay.
So
here.
they just
Thanks for
announced
reminding me to
3
do
of the
this.
biggest
Yes,
builders in
I
the
wished
country are all
I
coming
had
to
time to
Boise.
type it up better.
there's
That's fine. Thank you.
a lot happening, and then they move to Boise, and then they come up here, and then, oh man, I want a place up here. And it's just how.
And we've got three of the top 3 in the country.
In the
all coming to
country.
Boise.
Okay, since we have no other business before lunch, we will recess and see